Hello everybody, this week I'm playing Stranded Alien Dawn, having a lot of fun. I want to kind of give you a couple quick tips and stuff. First, when you're picking your 4 survivors, whether you're doing survival or whatever you're doing, make sure you get somebody that has at least a 2 or higher in construction. You want somebody to be able to make walls or whatever else you're doing. You also want intellect, you also want cooking, and farming is always another big one as well. And there's a ton of videos out there on like the perfect 4, blah, blah, blah. But basically, you'll play it through a couple times and you'll start having your own kind of favorites. All right, as soon as you land, you're looking for 2 plants specifically. The first one is grain, like this. And the second one is cotton, or it's like cotton blossom or something weird like that, but it looks like this. You need this to make fabrics and clothing, and then you need the grain. The grain, like you can eat the grain, you can make stuff out of the grain. The grain is very useful in the game. All right, next tip, you can put 2 of the camps together, and you can kind of see how that goes. And then it kind of removes the wall in between them so you can manipulate them and put stuff down. Also, regardless of how big your base is, you almost always need extra storage. So something like this, like your building materials, as long as the building materials are under a roof, and that's their only requirement, they're good indefinitely. So like your bricks, your wood, scrap metal, all that stuff, as long as it's under a roof, you're good. So something like this is a quick way of storing that stuff and not taking up space inside your actual storage facility. All right, another thing, as you move on and you get into like the middle phase and then near the end phase of the game, you might attract more and more survivors. Now, there's no hard limit except for the military scenario. I think the devs said the limit is 6, but on the regular scenario, there's actually no limit. It really kind of all depends on where you go and luck and how many expeditions you do, blah, 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 blah. But you have to plan kind of ahead. So you can see here I had this base, and I've got this, move this around so you guys can see this. So I had the 4 sleeping quarters for my initial 4, and then I got a 5th, and then later on I got a 6th. So really I had no room really to expand that, so I ended up having to throw this other base in there. So I think going in the future I would change my base design a bit. I think I would shoot for something like this, more of a U shape where I would have my bedrooms this way, and that way I can always expand them down if I needed to. I'd have a big, large crafting area with my refrigerators, freezers, and all the other crafting stuff. Then I would have the main storage, and I'd put my balloon in here. I might put my electricity and stuff in here. Then I had all my farms around the outside, and that way everybody has places, there's always room for them to run around and get to places and blah, blah, blah. And then all my interior stuff would all be safe like this. All right, another thing about the game, like when you're trying to look for something, like if I'm trying to highlight this, every once in a while you get the tree and stuff, but you can just pick whatever you want specifically through the list. So that way I can grab the whole thing, look for the glitter caps, and then I would just harvest those. All right, another tip, at the very beginning, you're gonna want to like hoard stuff, and you'll start, like these are all like berry bushes. And you can see this is just day 15, or I'm sorry, day 22. So those bushes are still there, but you're starting to see some other stuff kind of pop in there. You got between the first 25 and 30 days before all the stuff starts dying off because the weather gets too cold. Or if there's like a spawn of a bunch of bugs and stuff, they will eat these berries as well. So a lot of times at the very beginning, we'll think about, oh, I need to grab as many of these as I can. And we do that at the beginning of summer, and then we don't have any kind of like cooling stuff or refrigeration, and all our stuff spoils by the end of the fall. And you're like, oh crap, now it's all wasted. So again, here's those berry bushes on day 22. Here's those same berry bushes on day 25, and you can see like all the berries are going away. And here's those berry bushes on day 32, no berries to be found. So the moral of the story is don't hoard it first. You know, just maybe grab one bush, you know, one of those, and just have, you know, maybe 30 or 40 of the berries inside your base. Wait till near the end of summer, and then start grabbing. Like I would wait till maybe day 20, and then I would try to grab as much stuff as I can before the fall, and then hopefully I get enough in my base before the winter comes, and I can still have that refrigerated. All right, your first storage room, you tend to want to use like the straw sides, that way the air can get through, and then have a straw roof on there. And that way in the winter time, this will all be refrigerated for you, and your stuff won't kind of like go away or spoil. But the rest of your base where people you know, craft and where they sleep and stuff, you want to have at least wood or stone or brick walls, because that keeps the cold out. All right, next thing I want to talk about is tailoring. Tailoring is one of the skills you want to learn as fast as you can. It doesn't have to be the very first, but it probably needs to be in the top 3 things that you research. Because, again, by day 30, the weather starts to get cold. If your survivors don't have coats, which they kind of start out with jackets, you might want to pull the jackets off as soon as you land, have them stored in like a cabinet, and that way they're there for the first winter. If you don't do that and you leave the jackets on them, they will be kind of like almost dead by the time the first winter hits, and they won't really work very well. All right, the crafting tools that you can make later on, like I've really not noticed any significant difference with those. Now it says it increases the harvesting by 20%, but it doesn't really take them that long to harvest. So 20%, you'll never really notice the difference. And then for your survivors, they all have favorite things to do. So if you click on the little head icon or the profile, it'll show you like if they have a specific activity that they enjoy doing, like whether it's punching or staring at the statues or playing music. And that way, if you've got somebody that you picked that's always mad and like you have a hard time with their happiness, you can kind of like focus on that. You know, make them the food and then the activity that they want. All right, there's also no double bed once you get to the regular beds. That's all you can do. And then when these people start, you know, falling in love and getting married, that's all you can do is just put 2 single beds in there. But they need to be next to each other, and they have to have space on the side to get in, so you can't have anything else in there. So just keep that in mind. I tend to hoard food. I always have one refrigerator, and the only thing I put in the refrigerator is cooked food. And that way, as soon as it cooks, like they can have it there for about 8 days. Sometimes if I need extra storage for something like the pickled vegetables, I'll put those in there as well. Things that they can physically eat off the rack. And then I have 3 freezers to maintain stuff. And even with 3 freezers, I mean, that's a ton of food. You can see like I've got 9. I got enough for 900, almost 1,000 meals. You don't need to get that excessive, but that's just my personality. All right, these nests, these guys will actually shoot from their tails, especially the bigger ones. So at the end, near the end game, or what do you say, like the end of the middle game, you need to start grabbing carbon. So all you have to do is kill this main nest here. And if you click on one, it'll say nest. The other ones say something else. And then after you kill all these guys and destroy the nest, make sure you destroy the nest, otherwise they'll keep spawning. And then you can actually mine these for carbon, and then you use the carbon nanotubes to make some of the other more advanced stuff. All right, when you're first walling your base, your only option is going to be like a wooden wall that kind of looks like this door. And then eventually you'll start grabbing some rock or stone, and then eventually you can start making brick. There's not a whole lot of difference, especially between the wooden walls that you start with and then the stone walls. They both have like 50 integrity or health. But the brick walls have 100, so that's like really your first step up. So there's really no need to update to brick. It does the exact same health points as the wood. And the gates, you don't really get a new gate like this until you get into carbon. Once you get into carbon, you can make a carbon gate, but there's no brick gate or stone gate. There are like scrap metal and stuff like that, but none. Like the wood here has 100 health, so it's theoretically stronger than the stone wall, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's just the way it is. All right, and you want to build things efficiently. Like I want my people to sleep and then be able to go into the crafting room. I want the farms and stuff near the storage. Originally, I had my balloon here so that when it landed, we could just move the stuff right into storage. But because my stuff expanded, I had to move my balloon down over here. And you might think it's no big deal, but you know, when you only got 6 survivors, and one of them is constantly researching, one of them is constantly cooking, one of them is constantly either making crafting or making, you know, tailoring. You know, that's 3 out of the 6. So really, I only have 3 people, you know, to work all these farms and to gather and to scavenge and that kind of stuff and go on expeditions. So you want them to be able to get through things as fast as possible. So think efficiency when you're laying that stuff out. And always plan for more space than what you think you need. And then last tip, when you're making your storage, you want to put your shelves up and down like this. If I just did them against the wall and back and forth, this actually creates more shelf space than going the other way. I don't know what it is, but it just does. I think a lot of us like jam everything against the wall. So make sure you have some extra space and that you can kind of like go out here. So already like in this playthrough, I ran out of this floor space for building materials and I had to slap this down because I didn't plan for enough space. All right, and then bonus tip, you can actually build up with your foundations. I think it's the X and the Z key. X allows you to build up and then Z allows you to build down. But by the first year and a half, somewhere after a year and a half, or depending on how well armed your troops are and whatever, blah, blah, you'll start getting flying attackers, the little hummingbird things. And if your people are all outside and you have no machine guns, you're gonna take some serious damage on your people. Like the first time I put everybody inside a house and then they go right to the roof and they rip the roof off and then they start attacking everybody in the house. It was just bad. So don't do that. Make sure you have machine guns by at least a year and a half in. And I think, and don't hold me to this, because I've only been playing a little bit, but I think a year is like 50 days in the game. And that goes like from the start of spring till the end of winter. And that wraps it up. So that's about all I know. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and we'll see how it goes.